Hey, Browns fans, Spencer German with you live from Lincoln Financial Field with the Browns. Are getting ready to take on the Eagles. Week 6 is here. Browns are trying to salvage their season. We know the record 1-4. Things have not gone their way. We'll see if they can right the ship here today. Anthony Moeglin alongside back home in Cleveland. Anthony, we obviously are doing this a little bit later than we usually do pregame, but we do know now, because we're doing this a little bit later, that Denzel Ward will play for the Browns today. That's huge news because of the situation behind Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome and MJ Emerson, where you know that you're not going to have Grant Delpit or Ronnie Hickman, who have kind of been the two starting guys at safety since Juan Thornhill went down. So it's going to likely be Rodney McLeod and D'Anthony Bell starting back there. So that to at least know you have Ward back out there, I think is a nice boost for this team and a positive injury note for a team that's obviously dealing with a lot of negative injury notes of late.
Yeah, and it's important too because of what's on the other side. You're going to be going against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, who are two of the league's best, especially against man-to-man coverage, which we're going to obviously be in a lot of. That's kind of what we major in. So it's great to get 21 back out there. You're just hopeful that he doesn't continue to get beat up, whatever's going on, whatever he's working through, and he's got a plethora of injuries. But for him, it's like, all right, lock down what you got to do and try to stay healthy as best you can. But it's good to see that he's back and he's active for today because, frankly, it is our season, and for all intents and purposes, is pretty wrapped up being 1-4 and really trying to fight and claw. But you still are only a couple games back in the division. You steal a win today with 3 division games lined up for the next couple weeks. You can't fully close the door. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but having Denzel available is certainly a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a nice boost for the defense that we know has had its fair share of struggles this year, but they've hardly been the problem this year. You mentioned it, though, like maybe you get one. And here's the thing, like I said this last week, and it's part of the reason why I picked the Browns last week. Stupidly, obviously, that ended up being stupid in the end. But like this is another game where I don't feel like I'm not like overly impressed by the Eagles so much that I'm like, well, this game's going to get away from you, which is why I'm kind of surprised the line's 9.5. Although I guess I don't blame them for making it 9.5 because the Browns' offense has just been so bad. But basically, like this Eagles team, like they can be beaten. Like their secondary is somewhat susceptible. They haven't been great against the run this year. I think they're bottom third in the league in that category. So like you can do some things against them. I just don't know if I trust the Browns' offense to actually do that. In the same way I trusted them last week against the Washington defense that wasn't very good. Yeah. And we saw what happened.
So there's a couple thoughts I have to that. And the first is that these two teams are, I think in similar spots. Like they're both kind of reeling a little bit, like the Browns more dramatically than the Eagles for sure. But, you rewind 2 years and the Eagles were playing for a Super Bowl. And they're just not that same team. You don't know if Jalen Hurts is still that same player. They've battled some injuries. They've gotten a little bit older. So it's like two franchises and two organizations that are in similar positions to each other. So this is kind of like a fight at the bottom, just like I called it a loser leaves town game. The loser season's kind of like in really, really bad shape. The winner on the flip side kind of sticks alive and sticks around for another year. And you're right. Like in a normal scenario, like with a normal team, you think that you could sneak one. We'll see though. Like it is, you heard some rumblings this week that there may be a shift in what we see on the offensive side of the football, whether it looks more like a Kevin Stefanski under center, outside run, play action pass type of an offense. We'll see. Hopefully that those true, but if that rumor mill is true, I think it is positive for the Browns who just need some kind of a spark on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, they really do need anything right now. And it's interesting you bring up like these two teams feeling like they're in similar spots. I think the other part of that too is just like where the coaches are, because Nick Sirianni is very much on the hot seat. And with every little thing he does, like it's magnified and looked at in a microscope. But I also think like Kevin Stefanski is in an interesting predicament right now too, because last week he was adamant they're not making a quarterback change. If they struggle again this week, that's going to fall in his lap again. That decision is going to fall in his lap again. And there's been some talk that if the offense looks bad to start this game, that type of situation could rear its head during this game. They might have to make a decision to go to a different quarterback midway through this one if things don't start turning around. So I think that's an interesting proposition. Yeah, I mean, we might be having a very different conversation after this one, but I still subscribe to the idea that this team is probably not going to budge off of Deshaun starting, largely because if your season is in the toilet and you lose this one, then it becomes about figuring out what you actually have in him. And they've invested so much in him. Time, draft capital, the contract, and now time. that you almost have to see it through to this point to figure out like if he's really the guy for this team or not. Yeah, I hate saying that because it drives me nuts that this team would basically have to concede the regular season, this season that was supposed to mean so much and was supposed to be about chasing a championship, that now you're just kind of conceding to, well, actually now it's just about figuring out what you have in Deshaun. But if they lose today, like that's kind of what the season becomes. I understand they still have division games left and they could, still figure things out, but you got 5 losses on your schedule. You're in an impossible hole. I feel like to kind of get yourself, you basically, your margin of error is basically like 2, maybe 3 more losses, and then your season's pretty much shot anyway. So it's maybe that starts today, but this is an ongoing conversation about the quarterback. And after this game, if things are still look as bad as they have the first couple weeks, we could be talking about how it's impossible for Kevin Stefanski to continue going forward with Deshaun Watson.
Well, there's all of those elements, Spence, and a couple others where you bring up that like they got to figure out not only what they have in him, like if he can do anything, but also you're going to be actively looking to trade some of your players, and the trade deadline's coming up in a couple weeks here. It's right around the Browns bye week, which is right after they play the LA Chargers in the first week of November. They play the Chargers on the 3rd. The bye week is the trade deadline is the 5th. So it's like, hey, if you just let him run it out until there, then you start moving pieces, whomever that may be, whether that is an Amari Cooper or whomever. But then after that, you kind of do the whole reset and get ready for whatever life after Deshaun is for these next couple of years, as it may get vague. But we'll see, man. It's going to be, we're in a very peculiar spot when it comes to this quarterback conversation, and one that I don't have the answer to, and it's going to be tough these next couple of weeks here.
There's no doubt about it. It's a dilemma. It's a problem. It sucks that 5 weeks in, 6 weeks in now, we could be having conversations about like the quarterback and if it's time to make a change, because this was always the entire idea of bringing in Deshaun Watson was always supposed to be a big picture, chasing championships and all these things, and it has gone completely off the rails since then. So offense though needs to be better today, because we talked about it last week. This defense, I think they at times show some things that are positive, but it's hard for them to kind of continue that consistency throughout games when the offense is just going 3 and out all the time, not giving you a lot of time to catch your breath, and then you're right back out in the field. So it's a symbiotic relationship between those two units, and we got to see that today. And defense will have their work cut out for them. You mentioned A.J. Brown, you mentioned Devonta Smith, also Saquon Barkley, who might be the best running back in football way he's played to this point through 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be absolutely an uphill battle. And like you talked about it, defense and offense play off of each other. And for the Browns, the defense can only do so much. You can only rely on them so much to hold teams under 10. The Browns are the only team in the NFL who have not scored over 20 points. Like, you can't ask an NFL defense to stop NFL teams and hold them under 20 points. I think that's just an insane thing to ask. So, it's truthfully all on the offense, and I don't know what the answer is. Hopefully, like I said, there was some mention across the Browns media world that it may look a little bit more like a Kevin Stefanski style offense. If that is the case, that is exciting for us Browns fans. Get back to running the football, throwing off play action, throwing off bootlegs, and getting guys open, getting David Njoku involved, getting Amari Cooper in open spaces. But ultimately, all that's all fine and dandy. But if the quarterback can't deliver the football to him, it's all for naught. So we'll see if there's any adjustments today. I think there needs to be, or else it's time to start talking, like you said, some of that bigger picture stuff and making a larger change.
Yeah, we're certainly going to find out if they made some changes. If Deshaun Watson can run Kevin Stefanski's system, we'll try that once again. And I agree with you. They've got to change something, because what's the definition of Einstein's definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Anthony, before we submit our predictions here, which I know we already submitted via writing at Cleveland or si.com/Browns/NFL/ let me just try that again. si.com/NFL/Browns. It is on the little ribbon at the bottom, so sorry for botching that. But the Eagles are 3-0 under Nick Sirianni off of a bye week, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I am picking the Eagles to win today. In the name of positivity, I threw the Browns a bone of at least saying they would cover the spread. 27-20, I said that they would lose to the Eagles today. So I said they'd finally get the 20 points and they'd cover the 9.5. That's the best I can do for you, Browns fans. I'm sorry.
All right, for my first time in my Browns Digest / Cleveland Browns on SI career, I'm picking the Browns to lose. It hasn't worked to this point. Picking them to win. I got Eagles.
This is the first time you're picking them to lose.
First time, dude.
Wow.
Never go against the boys. Never have, never will, except for today because it hasn't worked. My predictions have not worked. I got Eagles 24, Browns 17. Joking aside, this has the potential to be like one of those like ugly, turn the TV off, go do yard work type games, and then come hang out with us after because this could get bad quick in my opinion. But hopefully the Browns keep it close and the offense looks a little bit better and maybe gets over 20 points.
Well, I didn't realize this was the first time you're picking against them, but maybe the reverse jinx is just the thing that they need. Guys,
wait. Before
Yeah.
we go, I had a thought earlier in the week. If the Guardians would have lost either game 4 or 5, that stadium behind you with 2 reeling football teams and 2 teams with disappointing AL and NLDS losses would have been a powder keg of just angry, upset, disgruntled fan bases.
Yeah, the Guardians were a nice appetizer yesterday for the Browns today. We'll see if the meal has any flavor or not, though, when they take the field here in about an hour from now. Guys, appreciate you jumping on in with us. Hope you enjoyed the pre-game conversation between Anthony and I. We will be back post-game, as we always are. Same time, I shouldn't say same time, same place, Cleveland Browns on SI YouTube channel. And you can obviously read all of our work over at Cleveland Browns on SI or nsi.com/NFL/Browns. There's been some stuff that's gone up pregame. We'll obviously have a bunch of different content for you throughout the game, injury notes, anything that might happen. We'll have some post-game stuff going for you as well, stuff that's said in the locker room and whatnot. So please follow along with everything there for coverage of your Cleveland Browns at Cleveland Browns on SI.